Hello and welcome to Mr. Panz's video lesson on how we find decimals on a number line. Now, we learned how to find fractions on a number line, and similar, you can find decimals on a number line if you're dealing with a whole number. For example, on our number line here, you have the whole number 1, 2, 3. And you remember the steps for finding fractions on a number line. The first thing you would have to do, let's say if they were looking for a spot on that number line right here, would be locate the whole numbers, which are 1 and 2, and you would write down the whole number that it has gone past but not quite 2, so that would be 1. That's going to be your whole number. And at this point then, you can put your decimal mark, because what used to be your whole number in a mixed fraction is now just going to be your whole number in a decimal. And then if you can't remember, we counted spaces and sticks. To count spaces, you start at your starting line, and the first space goes from here to the first stick. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And the great thing about decimals is it's always going to be either 10, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, or 100,000s. Well, in this case, because there are 10 spaces, you can see that now all I have to do is count sticks, and it's going to be in the tenths place value, which is that first place value to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It'll be 1 7/10 if the place value marker is right there and you have 10 spaces and they're giving you the whole numbers of 1 and 2. Recognize that I did not count this because this is my starting line. It's my 0 point. However, we have to start thinking a little bit beyond just whole numbers. Let me show you what I'm talking about. In our previous example, it's typical to see something like these two examples here. You start at 0 and you go to the whole number 1. You start at the whole number 1 and you go to the whole number 2. We would know then if they were looking for this point on the number line, or if they were looking for this point on the number line, you could follow the same exact 3 steps that we've talked about. Here's my whole number 0 and here's my whole number 1, which means there is no whole number. I would just write my 0 as my whole number and my decimal point, because remember, that's step 1. Then I can just count spaces and sticks. And the great thing about decimals when you're dealing with a whole number 0 to 1 or 1 to 2 is it's definitely going to be in the tenths in this example. If you don't believe me, just count the spaces with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You have 10 spaces, which means it's in the tenths place value. Then you just have to count sticks to see how many tenths there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So it will be 7 tenths. Same exact process down here. Here's your whole number 1 and your whole number 2. Spaces are going to be 10, which means your whole number is 0, your decimal point, and it's going to be in the tenths place value. And when I count sticks, that will tell you how much the value is in the tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 0 and 5 tenths. But as I mentioned on the previous slide, we need to start thinking a little bit beyond that. What if you see examples that look like this? Instead of whole numbers now, you're dealing with portions. Your number actually starts at 2 tenths and it goes up to 3 tenths. Now, this example fortunately gives you numbers in the middle, but you'll be seeing examples where they don't give you any of this information in here. With decimals, there are always going to be 10 spaces. So if you're starting at 2 tenths and you're going to 3 tenths and you have 10 spaces in between, you can see that this is actually going to be a place value in the hundreds. Here's how I know. I can start at 2 tenths, and then if I count my spaces, I'm going to have 10. But as we had discussed earlier, in addition and subtraction, as well as organizing, ordering, and comparing decimals, anytime you see a number in the tenths place value, you can always fill in the hole with a 0, which means that 2 tenths actually equals 20 hundredths. So I can fill that in to see, oh, this starting point represents 20 hundredths, and my ending point would be 30 hundredths. So that would mean this stick isn't 2 1/10, it's actually 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So if I were looking at this, I would just count up from 20 to 30 until I found my stick. 21, 22, 23. So the spot they were looking for was 23 hundredths. The same can be said if you're looking at the tenths, and it's 1 tenth to 2 tenths. You could then again see, oh, in the middle here, if I'm looking for this place marker, instead of writing down a whole number, I need to convert this tenth into a hundredth. How do I do that? I simply add a 0. And then right here, I'm going to convert that to a hundredth by simply adding a 0, which then means I'm not adding 1, then this is 1 and 2. This is now 11 hundredths, 12 hundredths. And down here, what we were looking for is 13 hundredths. So recognize that everything changes when you stop using whole numbers and you start using decimals. But you can always hold place value spots, holders, by filling in with those zeros and then counting up. I hope this video lesson helped.